was talking about how an ideal reborn weight is less than real baby weight, and for the doll to feel as lifelike as possible, we need the weight to be distributed in a way that's appropriate for the size of that doll. So after years of research and experimenting, literal experimenting, I have developed an algorithm that will actually calculate both your ideal doll weight as well as the weight distribution. And that is all summarized in a tool I've developed that I'm calling the Real Feel Reborn Weight Calculator. I'll make the beta version of this calculator available in my online store, so please check it out, try it out, give me your feedback, and we will continue to develop this together. To weight your doll, you're going to, of course, need a scale. Any scale will do. Just make sure that you have specificity up to 1/10 of an ounce. What we're working with is pretty small, so those tenths of an ounce actually do matter. You're going to need a soft surface to put the parts in while you're waiting. You're going to need cable ties or strings, whichever you prefer to use. You'll need all of the plugs and rings compatible with your doll kit. You'll need some hosiery to hold the weighting material. And of course, you'll need your weighting material and your doll. The great thing about the Real Feel calculator is that all you have to do is answer 10 questions, and it will give you all the information that you need to properly weight your reborn doll. So let's jump in. The first question is, what's the baby's name? We're filling in the yellow boxes, so the answer is Alissa Beth. Next, I need to select the length of the doll because this is going to approximate both the age of the doll as well as the appropriate weight distribution. So the length of the doll is 20 inches. And what's great about this calculator is it's giving the ideal weight distribution based on the length of the doll. So for a newborn, we want 25% head. For a 9-month-old, 15% head. And it has a calculation for everything that's in between. So pretty sophisticated, I'm proud of it. So we're going to select 20 inches. And what's also being updated automatically, as you might be able to see, is the ideal weight, which is being given to you both in pounds and ounces. So according to the Real Feel calculator, the ideal weight for a newborn 20-inch doll is 4 3/4 pounds, or 76 ounces. And I'm going to be working in ounces because that's just easier, more specific on our scale. So it gives me a recommended total weight, but now you have the option to decide whether or not you want to use that weight. So maybe your customer said, you know what, I want the doll to be 5 pounds. No problem, just type in that amount in ounces, and the rest of the calculator updates automatically. So I don't think I want her 5 pounds. I think I want her a little bit heavier than 4 3/4 pounds though. So I don't know, maybe we'll do 78 ounces. Why not? What the heck? Great. So the next part is very important. The total weight of the doll is going to be a function of the weight you started with and the weight you're going to add. So in order to properly weight the doll, we need to know where our starting point is. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the scale. Hopefully you can see the display. I'm going to set it to be in ounce mode because it's easiest for me to work in ounces with this tool. And I'm going to weigh each part. So I'm going to make sure the scale is zeroed out, and then I'm going to set the head right on there. 8.75 ounces, 8.5, sorry, ounces is where I'm starting. I'm going to put that into the calculator. A final and very important measurement that we have to take for the Real Feel weight calculator is the weight of the torso. So if you're doing just the cloth body, you want just the weight of the cloth body, but you want it to either have stuffing in it or you want to have a good idea in your head of how much weight the stuffing adds. So fortunately I have this just full of polyfill, so this is the sort of heaviest stuffed weight that it would be. So So this is a little bit heavier than it would be without anything in it. So we want everything that's going to be in the torso. So this doll has both the belly and back plates. She has a belly insert and a fanny insert. So you can weigh those separately and add it together, or you can make a crazy little pile like I just did, so that you have a full estimate of what your starting weight will be for the torso. Just 23.9 ounces for Alissa Beth. Okay, so we're going to add our 23.9 ounces for the torso, and here's where the magic happens. So now, based on the information that we've added to the calculator, we have a real feel ideal baby weight distribution expressed both in percentages of the total weight. So for a newborn, about 25% of the weight's in the head, double that in the torso, the rest is distributed across the limbs. Then we also have that calculated in ounces. So now we need to figure out how much weight we need to add to get from our starting weight to our ideal weight. And one thing that can happen quite often is that the arms are already too heavy. That happens a lot, actually. It's just a property of the vinyl. But that's okay, because you don't have to be super precise. We can still hit your target overall weight without, in spite of the fact that the vinyl's throwing us off a little bit. So, part 7 is we're going to add this much weight to each part. So let's go ahead and start with the legs. So we need to add 4 ounces to each leg. I've got my empty part. We already put this in the calculator, but now that you can see the scale, empty vinyl is 3.7 ounces. And empty vinyl, I guess with the ring, might be nice to know. Okay, so it's 4 ounces with a plug. We're trying to get from 4 ounces to 8.2 ounces. So I'm gonna get about 3.7 ounces of beads. That's what I had last time. The cup is 4/10 of an ounce. So I'm gonna go ahead and zero the scale out. Scoop myself some beads. And I'm gonna pour them into the cup until I reach my desired weight. The more you do this, the more you kind of can eyeball how much you need. 3.2. There. We're going to shake this down into our leg. And since on the other one, it went to the knee, I'm kind of expecting it to do that again. So we're just going to pour the full amount in there. You can also, where you have joints, you can sort of work the beads down into those joints. So I like to really make sure I've got the beads in the feet. Okay, so once again, it filled up to about the knee. I'm going to throw it back on the scale again just to make sure I didn't already overshoot. Okay, so we're at 7.3 out of 8 ounces. Gonna get the fluff again and pack it in. So it's really the thigh that's hollow. So the polyfill will keep your glass beads down so they're not shaking around inside the limb. And it also, you know, gives your doll some volume, so it's not gonna feel like a hollow doll. Turn that off. When you squeeze it. I like to overstuff because the stuffing does compress over time. And I need it tight because I don't want to hear those beads jiggling around in there. Okay, so that is good. And squeeze it a little bit. Create a vacuum, push some of the air out. Force the stuffing back in. There we go. Make sure you don't hear any beads. You might hear my earrings, those head beads, but you're not hearing any beads in the leg. And now we're hoping this is somewhere around 8 ounces. Woo, 8.1. All right, so you got 2 legs that roughly match each other. Now we're gonna keep going with the rest of the limbs. So now we're on the arms. So we had a little issue in that the vinyl is already heavier than it needs to be for our weight distribution. So in the right arm is saying to add like 1/100th of an ounce of weight, which is not possible. So what we're gonna do is I want minimally to fill up to the wrist in glass beads. On any doll, if I can't fit any extra weight, I will always just fill the hands or just fill the feet. Because we want the bulk there, and we also want them to feel kind of bottom heavy because that helps to add to that realism effect when you pick the doll up and it's flopping all over the place. So I want just enough to get me to the wrist. And you can keep squeezing it to see where you're at. Okay, so I think that's about it. So now I'm gonna add my fluff. So I've got a pretty sharp corner to get around here. In a small enough kit, you can probably use your fingers to force it down. In a larger kit, you may need the assistance of a dowel, and actually your polyfill has a tendency to come with that in the bag if you get the stuff from Bristol, Connecticut, or Fairfield, Connecticut, sorry. So I'm gonna work the fluff in with my fingers. And as much as I can, force it into the forearm. I'm having a hard time with that because it's a sharp joint and it's kind of deep around the corner, so that's where the dowel comes in. We want the polyfill to be flush with the beads because we don't hear the beads. Fortunately, it's vinyl, so if you need to, straighten the joint a little bit to help you force the stuff down, you can do that. You're not gonna break anything. And shake it, make sure you don't hear beads. I don't hear beads. You can squeeze it to make sure you don't have any air pockets. Okay, this feels pretty good. So now we're gonna fill up the rest. And when we compare the stuffed limb to the unstuffed limb, you really see the difference that the stuffing makes. Right, this one has a lot more bulk to it. When you squeeze it, it feels a little bit more substantial. Whereas the hollow limb is very flimsy and it's gonna have a tendency to get bent. So the 24mm plugs are recommended for these, and just so you know, it is a tight squeeze. So you're gonna have to fight it a little bit, but just for peace of mind, I did try a 20, and that's an easier fit, but once it's stuffed, it's gonna feel a little loose. Okay, so now our stuffed arm is exactly 3 ounces. That's the right arm, so I'm gonna add that to the calculator. And now we're gonna try to get the left arm to no more than 3 ounces. It's already 2.3. So again, I only want to just fill up to the wrist, so it's not squishy like that, and so we have a little bit of weight at the bottom of the arm. But I'm actually not trying to add weight because the vinyl's already heavy enough by itself. It's kind of a interesting shaped part, so you want to make sure you work the beads down into those little crevices. Okay. And with that, 2.6, we're getting close. Let's add our fluff and try not to get across 3. moly, okay, that was really hard. You might just want to use a 20mm if you don't feel like turning into a giant green rage monster trying to get this thing in. Take a look at our finished weight, 3.1, that's perfect.